Finally got around to seeing Pearl, which is the prequel to X, came out earlier this year. Well, let's see how this stacked up against it. What Ti West is doing with this trilogy, I don't think has ever been done in cinema before, let alone horror movies. But I fucking love it so much. And it may get a little convoluted, but I'm gonna break it down for you really quick. Earlier this year, he came out with X, and there was a post-credit scene for X if you decided to stick around. The post-credit scene actually ended up being a teaser for Pearl, which is the prequel to X. You with me? Okay. Pearl premiered at a couple film festivals, and there was something attached to Pearl at these film festivals, and that thing that was attached to Pearl happened to be an announcement for a sequel to X, so 2 movies ahead of Pearl, called Maxine. So if you look at it from beginning to end, Ti West created an entire trilogy based around characters no one has heard of or experienced yet. This is the type of faith I like to see put in directors who create their own visions, who aren't being told what to do by numbers by a studio. You give them the freedom to create what they want. It's not for a very large budget. The ideas are original. So the rewards more than outweigh the risks, because these directors just seem to know what they're doing. X, I remember seeing it. It was all right the first time around, but after watching it for a second time, it was far more convincing and I liked it a lot more. Now, after seeing Pearl, somehow X has become an even better movie, because Pearl lays the groundwork for the character you see in X, and it lays it so well. This movie feels like a love child. If The Wizard of Oz and Psycho had a baby, this would be that. This movie was set in 1918, and by some work of God, Ti West has managed to capture the feel and the atmosphere and the aesthetic of the early 1900s almost perfectly. Unlike X, this movie primarily takes place during the day. The lighting is scaled way up. So these colors, when you see them, they're gonna pop. And there's a lot of parts where the lighting is so overdone, it's almost blinding. But it's done intentionally, and it's not done to distract you from what's going on. It's usually taking place in the background, somewhere out of focus. The first half of this movie, I'd say, is really spent breaking down the dynamic between Pearl and her family members, which she just lives with her parents. But it lets you get a sense for the atmosphere in the household, and also her different relationships with each parent. You really get a sense for Pearl's goals and aspirations, where she wants to go with her life. None of which is attainable, because as you'll learn, Pearl is very different from everyone else, and she's aware of this. The more she becomes aware that she's different, the more things start to unravel and just get nastier and nastier. I know people say this many times in reviews or videos, but I am not exaggerating. This is not a hyperbole. Mia Goth gives, I'll have to rewatch to make sure. This may be my top 10, maybe top 5 favorite performances I've ever seen. Like, there's so many examples to point out just to showcase her acting ability. This film it sends you, first of all, it ends in a beautiful way. For anyone who is a fan of horror or slashers, it ends on a perfect note. But before that, Mia Goth gives an 8-minute monologue. 8 minutes. The camera does not cut away from her face. It is positioned pretty similarly to how I have my camera right now. And it is close up to her face, and she just gives it for 8 straight minutes, covering every emotion you could think of, teetering back and forth between sane and insane. I had my hands on my cheeks or covering my mouth or something for the entire duration of it. I've gone back and rewatched that monologue probably 10 times. And it's not just that monologue. The way this film wraps up, which, by the way, I think could be looked at as sort of an ode to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I love what they did. But this scene, the final frame, is a close-up of Mia Goth's face again. And she's smiling. And the credits start to roll, and the music is happy. She does not stop smiling during the entire credits. You see her face turn red, she starts to cry, and then the farther you get into this, the music transitions from happy and cheerful to very disturbing and ominous. I don't get how someone can fucking captivate me and demand my attention like that. If you think I'm exaggerating, go fucking watch the end of this movie. Go watch the end of it and then come back and you tell me this isn't one of the best performances you've ever seen in your life. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not bullshitting you. I haven't stopped thinking about it. If I had the time, I would have rewatched this whole movie multiple times, but I've gone back and just rewatched the clips that I know hit me hard. I can't put into words enough how good she is, how good this movie is. This movie is fucking incredible. It's way better than X. I mean, it gets me beyond excited for the third installment. I don't know when that's coming out. Maybe early next year, I think. I don't know if there's a release date yet. But fuck, bring that on, bring more Mia Goth, bring all of it back. I'm ready for more of it. Thank you for always checking out my reviews. I appreciate you guys, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.